To start today's lesson, we've got some fluency. I've got a number for you, and it's a recap of some of the skills that we did a few weeks ago. So that's looking at factors, multiples, prime and composite numbers. So same as usual, you can either pause this and go through, there's quite a few things for you to do, or you can really challenge yourselves and you can do it in the 30-second timer before the answers come up. So if you're doing it timed, then your time starts now. Now I'm going to go through yesterday's challenge. So to see number, 4/10 of the audience are adults and the rest are children. There are twice as many girls as boys. What percentage are girls? So first of all, I drew myself a little bar model and put it into tenths because that was the information I knew. So I knew that 4/10 were adults. So that left out of my whole 6/10. So I knew that 6/10 were children. Now I can turn these into percentages, so 6/10 is the same as 60 hundredths or 60%, and the adults were 40%. I then had to work out how many were boys and girls out of that 60%. I knew that there were twice as many girls as boys. So I had to look at how many tenths I'd got left, and then we can see that 2/10 then could have been boys, so that's the same as 20%, and 4/10 were girls. So really well done if you got that correct. Okay, so for today's learning, we are going to start moving on to angles. Now, we started angles before school closed, before we started learning from home, and so that feels like it was quite a long time ago, quite about 7 weeks now. So I'm going to go right back to the start and do a refresh on what is an angle, what do we already know. What I'd like you to do first is pause the video and see if you can write out the different types of angle that you know that you already remember, and then I'll go through them. Okay, so we're thinking about what is an angle. An angle is where two lines meet at a point. That is what we define as an angle. So at that point, what is the turn that has taken to get to the other line, okay? Okay, now think about the different types of angle. We're going to start off with a right angle. I wonder if you can pause the video and write down what is a right angle, and maybe even have a go at drawing one and thinking about where would we see right angles in day-to-day life. Hopefully you remember that a right angle is an angle that is exactly 90 degrees. So remember, we measure angles or turns in degrees, and we show that by this little circle that floats above our number. And that's called degrees. Now a right angle is exactly 90 degrees, and this is indicated by a little box. Okay, so whenever you see this box, it's telling you that it is a right angle. It's exactly 90 degrees. We see this in lots of corners. So you can see on my blackboard here, it's got 4 right angles. All of those angles there are 90 degrees, so we call them right angles. You can see right angles at the top of door frames, on the corner of your paper. All of those are right angles. They are exactly 90 degrees. Next up is an acute angle. See if you can pause the video and write down what you know about an acute angle and have a go at drawing one. A way of remembering what an acute angle is thinking about that word cute. So think about things that are small and cute, and here's a picture of baby Ringo to help you remember. So in maths terms, we're thinking about an acute angle is one that's it's smaller than 90 degrees, okay? So it's between 1 degree and 89 degrees. Any angle that's between that range is an acute angle. It is smaller than 90 degrees. So if we see this angle that I've just drawn, this would be 90 degrees where the dotted line is, and we can see that anywhere between this line and this line is an acute angle, smaller than 90 degrees. Okay, the next angle I want you to think about is an obtuse angle. So can you write down what it is and can you have a go at drawing one? So for the obtuse angle, I want you to be thinking about that word obese, which means large and fat, and I've got this picture here to help remind you. So now thinking mathematically, obtuse, so again thinking about that word obese, means bigger than or greater than 90 degrees. Okay, so it's anywhere between 91 degrees, but it can't be bigger than 180 degrees, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So an obtuse angle is greater than 90 degrees, so it's bigger than a right angle. So if we have a look here, this dotted line would be about a right angle, and we can see that between here and here it goes past our right angle, it goes past 90 degrees, so it's bigger than. So we would call it an obtuse angle, okay? Next then, tell me, pause the video and write down, why can my obtuse angle not be bigger than 180 degrees? Why is that significant? Hopefully you remember that 180 degrees is significant because the angles on a straight line will always equal 180 degrees. It doesn't matter where our straight line is, but on one side it will always equal 180 degrees. We can test this by thinking, well, on a straight line, I can create, if I had another horizontal and a vertical line, I create two right angles, which is 90 degrees and 90 degrees, and that totals 180 degrees. So it's just a little fact to help you remember that an obtuse angle can't be bigger than 180 degrees. Okay, so it's anywhere between 91, so bigger than a right angle, to 180 degrees. Next one for you to think about is a reflex angle. Pause the video, tell me what it is, so what's the range between, and have a go at drawing one. So for reflex, I want you to think about that word, flexible. So now thinking mathematically, our reflex angle is an angle that is greater than 180 degrees. Okay, it's bigger than a straight line. So it's from 181 degrees, it's bigger than a straight line, but it can't be any bigger than 360 degrees, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, so here's our angle. Okay, if I was to draw out the straight line, it could look like this, and we can see that my line actually goes past the straight line. It's bigger than a straight line, so it's bigger than that 180 degrees. So a reflex angle is greater than a straight line, so 181, but it can't be bigger than 360 degrees. So that's your next task. Can you pause the video and tell me why it can't be bigger than 360? Why is 360 degrees significant in angles? And see if you can draw that out for me as well. Okay, so 360 degrees is significant in angles because it's what we call a full turn. An angle can't be bigger than 360 degrees. So think about, well, we've got 180 degrees. You might hear, let's see, like a skier or a skateboarder doing a 180 flip. So that means turning from one direction to the opposite direction. That's 180 degrees. Whereas 360 degrees is a full turn, and we can either go clockwise or anti-clockwise. Why don't you have a go at turning 180 degrees and 360 degrees? It's a full turn. We can also test this like we did with the 180 degrees. So around a point, so here's my point, we've got 4 right angles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of those are 90 degrees. We also know that the angles on a straight line are 180 degrees. So we've got 180 degrees and 180 degrees. So we know that they can't be bigger than 360 degrees. That's a full turn. You are going to find today's task on Purple Mash, and it's all about identifying the different types of angles. So use today's work to help you. I'd love to see your drawings of what you've come up with from today's lesson, so please send those into our email address, okay? And then task is on Purple Mash. There's also a challenge coming up next, so I will see you on Monday.